8 of the 10 most deprived neighbourhoods in England are right here in Blackpool. And that's before the pandemic struck.
The it's bleak, and that's how people are feeling. It's bleak. I don't think anybody ever imagined it was going to get this bad. We've got desperate people turning up at the soup kitchen every day. Desperate people, not just what we would normally look after the homeless people. We've got families and taxi drivers, genuine people who have just got no money, who just can't afford to live.
How is that desperation manifesting itself?
Well, the panic has struck in this time around more than ever. The first lockdown was bad enough. The second one was incredibly hard, but this one, I don't see a way out of it for a lot of people. We've got people in business who just cannot make ends meet. We've got homeless people who are in hotels that are desperately in need of food. We've got people ringing us up, old age pensioners ringing us up that have got no food. We're primarily set up to help homeless people, but it's changed since the pandemic started. We've been helping OAPs, people who are in lockdown, people who are caught up and not well at home, who can't get out of the house, who haven't got family members. They're just not coping. When you come along tonight, you'll see a lot of families, people there waiting in the queue for food, and that's not a very nice thing to have to do. Queue outside a soup kitchen, it's quite a difficult thing for some people.
It's really hard at the moment going through a pandemic, and when you've got a family of children and stuff that you can't really support, these guys up here help you, you know what I mean? They tell you to come at a certain time, they give you food. More and more people are just becoming homeless, and I think that's why these guys open shelters up for them and they put them in B&B so they're not on the streets where the virus is, do you know what I mean? It's been really bad, honestly. It has. People that have got money that just ain't got it no more because they're out of work.
Okay, so this is Amazing Grace. This is where we serve the food and all of the hot food resources. Over here we've got Pizza Grazie. This is where we make our money. The food is sold out to the general public. Instead of a second-hand shop, we decided on a pizzeria. And the main resource room, basically what we do in here is, this is where all of the groceries, all of the hot meals that go out. This area here we're doing these are OAPs, deliveries. These are getting packed up to go out exactly the same time. The drivers will all arrive and it will all happen dead on 5 o'clock.
People, it's awful when the first time they come, it's usually the wife, the mum, and they're mortified. They're just so embarrassed that they're having to ask for help, that they're not being able, up until now they've been able to feed their families and they can't anymore, and it's heartbreaking. There's no judgment, there's no questions asked. If you need help and we've got it, we'll help you. And so the people do come back because of that. But it's really sad really to see. I mean, I'm a mum myself, my children have grown up, but that's really sad when mums are coming because they're desperate to feed the children. We're a seaside town, we're a tourist town where we didn't have a season. We didn't have the illuminations, we didn't have all those things. And so a lot of people who work in those kind of jobs, in cafes, in the shops, in all the viewers on the pier, they've all lost their jobs. Well, you know, and the furlough's been cut more and more, hasn't it? I mean, it was great at the start when it was 80, but as it's been cut back more and more, people are just feeling the pinch now. And it's really sad because it's, in a town like us where we're so dependent on tourism, we're so dependent on the holiday trade, it's just hit so many people really, really hard.
They're realising now that Christmas is over and it's like there's not, all the help's gone now, hasn't it? The mental health level for a lot of people it's gone so bad, and it's the one area in Blackpool that we struggle with. There's no real mental health support, and it's quite frightening really to what's going to be at the end of all this.
Art is one of those things that can really help people when they're anxious. it makes a real difference to people's lives if they've got something to focus on other than anxiety. I'm Alice. I have a mental health condition called schizoaffective disorder, which I've experienced since I was 20. It means sometimes I hear voices that aren't there and see things that aren't there, and I get very frightened and paranoid. So that's been quite a big impact on my life, but it's also taught me stuff as well. Painting really helps because it helps me focus on things that aren't everything else in the world that's going wrong, you know. So I spend a lot of time painting almost in a hopeful manner that there might be a more positive future after all of this.
Hi, Alice.
Hi, Nick.
I love this shed, by the way.
Thank you so much.
I'm just wondering how you're feeling as we go into this third lockdown, given everything that's happened over the last few months.
I'm feeling pretty anxious right now. I really am. A week before Christmas I was prescribed antidepressants, which, because I was depressed and I was also having some side effects from my medication, but they sort of had the opposite effect, which made me very, very depressed. So I felt quite suicidal just before Christmas, which isn't a good thing, you know. So I sort of, what I do when that happens is I take as many walks and I take as many, I try and contact other people if I can. If I'm in the place to, I try and make contact with other people.
How important, though, is contact with people for you?
Vital. I have a really good support network of friends, so I'm really lucky in that respect. And you know, everyone's got a family of some kind, hopefully, in whatever form that is. I did get very, very depressed before Christmas. It was horrible, really horrible. And it's actually very frightening, but I feel like, you know, my friends and my family too, and really they get me through a lot of the dark stuff.
Oh, you silly things. Come on, girls. Come on. I don't know where the others have gone. They might be down the bottom here. I don't think they like you walking right close to them. I keep saying to the kids, you are so lucky to have a space outside, no matter what, even a small space, but a space like this where we can go, the kids play in the stream and like we can go walking.
Is the garden like a coping mechanism?
Yeah, definitely.
So is this a good, decent substitute to keep you sane?
I don't really like gardening or anything.
I first met Joe and Simon on the first day of lockdown back in March, in much nicer, brighter weather.
It's a cosy cafe, we make everything fresh.
I've just been and dropped some bread cakes off for Rick, the guy who bakes for our cafe, and he's saying he's probably only going to keep going for another week.
The week building up to that lockdown, I think it was a bit of a shock, wasn't it? There was so much uncertainty, and I'd had to sit down with all the staff and say, I don't know what's going to happen, you might not have a job, we'll try our best. And that was really hard. And as that week went on, I remember that just being such a difficult week, not knowing what was happening with schools and trying to get to talk to the staff and give them some assurance, but not much. So then when they locked us down and then they announced the furlough, it was this huge sense of relief in terms of the staff, but just an uncertainty about the business.
We are a cook chill place, but due to the low demand, we're going to have to swap to a kind of cook freeze place. He said originally that there was going to be a second wave in the winter, and traditionally it was always worse. So I wasn't under any impressions that it would be open by July. I thought, well, we'll be closed, but no, I didn't think it would be this bad. I didn't think it would be this long.
What's your full name, just for the Chris Conway. Chris Conway, MBE. Chris Conway, MBE. I'll never get used to saying that, ever. We are now currently on our way to the other side of Blackpool to deliver a meal and some food to an elderly lady and her daughter who are currently shielding. Back end of 2020, I received an email and it said, dear Mr. Conway, blah, blah, you are being made a member of the British Empire. And I said to my girlfriend, I said, what does that mean? Long story short, I've been awarded an MBE for services to homeless people. People weren't expecting the second lockdown, so everyone thought they were going back to work, they were getting a job, they were, they wouldn't need any support, and everything's going to be okay. And then all of a sudden, it's been hit again. So it's almost as if it's even worse the second time round. It's just got worse. For the people that are receiving the food, it's a lifeline. Good evening.
Hiya.
How are we?
I'm good, thank you.
I have this box for you. Is that all right, or would you want me to take it out?
My mother doesn't live in Blackpool. She originally lives in Ramsbottom, but I've got to look after her, so she hasn't even seen her own home since last year. It really is hard.
You don't feel like it's safe to actually cross this threshold and get out too much?
Not too much, but I have to do it.
And how is Mum doing?
She's all right.
This is tough.
Yeah. Very tough. Tough times. I'll just be glad when it's all over.
Are you worried about it?
I'm very worried about her, yeah. Because if I go out, what if I catch anything and then bring it back to Mum? I'm a vulnerable. It's scary. It's really scary.
This is the reality, isn't it?
Yeah. It's really scary.
Right, okay. I'll see you next week.
Thanks, Craig.
No worries. See you later. Bye.
We rely on these guys.
And did you before the pandemic?
No.
It does get better, but you do need that human contact. You really do. Out of really hard stuff comes a bit of a revelation as to how to survive things, So I feel really lucky I'm here now, really lucky actually. I spent 4 or 5 years pretty isolated when I was in my early 20s.
In a way, you'd had lots of little lockdowns.
Yeah, I guess I'd had lots of little lockdowns in my life where I couldn't go out because I was too frightened to go out. If anyone is going through a mental health problem right now, when you really struggle, sometimes you come out the other side, so it's always worth it.
I am always stupidly optimistic. I really am, and I haven't felt doom and gloom, but as it's gone on, and you think, okay, how long is this going to go on and how much is it going to really affect you? You see businesses closing like ours and people saying, I don't know whether we're going to manage this or we're going to cope or we're going to survive this. Then you think it is a hard time. The stopping and the starting and the we can open, no we can't open, and that's been really stressful.
I'm actually really missing the customers and my staff as well, really missing those guys as well. And it's great to see them and they're really fired up and they want to get back to work as well.
I think it will be okay. I really do. I think that we're going to have a busy cafe again and people are going to come back in their droves because people miss it desperately. They miss going for coffees and they miss meeting their friends and they miss having lunches. And so I think that we're going to be okay.